Nintendo is most known for their family-friendly appearance alongside games that fit that vibe. It's mainly through their best plumber, from destroying your TV by getting hit with the blue shell or suplexing your mother for stealing your star. The Mario franchise has it all, except for guns, but we'll get to this soon enough. Mario spin-offs are a great time for both single-player and multiplayer experiences, but when it comes down to solo adventures, they have been absolutely amazing. 2D Mario truly kicked off home console gaming in 1985 with Super Mario Bros. My headcanon is that this game practically saved the world alongside a robot. But let's fast forward to a very important date for gaming, the day that one of the best games of its generation would release. I'm not gonna lie, I can only say Pilotwings 64 is fun in so many different ways, and yes, there was Mario 64. That game was a big step forward as the first 3D game that actually worked and was good. Alpha Waves could have been amazing, but I guess we'll never know. Can't wait for the remake in 70 years. While the number of 3D Mario games seems smaller than you would think, they are some of Nintendo's best products. Sunshine, both Galaxy games, as well as both 3D Land and World, as well as Captain Toad Treasure Tracker being a solid surprise. But let's go forward to the beautiful days of when the Switch was called the NX. We would eventually get the first official trailer for the Nintendo Switch, and this is where we get teased of what Mario's next adventure might be. Speculation during this time was insanity in the best ways, and I'd like to assume most people thought it was Galaxy 3. Luckily nowadays I have a brain, and I know that's not going to happen anytime soon. During the Nintendo Switch presentation in 2017, we would get an official first look at the next Mario adventure. Holy shit, I've never been more excited for a video game. Super Mario Odyssey is the name of the game, and good lord, they did not hold back with this game's rollout. All these trailers are so fucking cool to watch, especially now that the game is almost 10 years old already. Someone get me a blunt, some Malibu, and a time machine. I can't stand being immortal. Super Mario Odyssey was released on the Nintendo Switch worldwide on October 27th, 2017. Getting a mainline Mario game of this caliber during the first year of the Switch's life still seems like a fever dream to this day. There's a lot to be excited for, so much to see and so much to do. The worlds and visuals look amazing. We finally get to see Mario in a traditional city environment that isn't this. We don't talk about this. I fell in love with this game as soon as I bought it, and I hardly put it down. But it's been a while since I last picked the game up. You know, now that I'm older and my brain is somewhat developed at the age of 22. Let's take a look at how this game set the new standard for 3D Mario. This is Super Mario Odyssey. Now, I went into this game not expecting anything huge for this story. Mario has the most passive storytelling in gaming, and they still managed to get the message across with minimum dialogue and 0 lines from our protagonist in red. Super Mario Odyssey's story is a great triumph, but still insanely simple yet similar to digest. Bowser has officially attempted to get Peach to marry him, and to think, we got to this point all because Bowser wanted some cake in 85. Bowser himself has never looked better. I mean, look at this swagged out turtle. Without a doubt, one of my favorite Bowser designs. Our story starts with Mario and Bowser battling it out for the 600th time, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that is accurate. Although now, Bowser isn't fucking around. He manages to get the best of Mario. That's crazy to think about, but here we are. Mario gets wiped up in a mysterious monochromatic world with fake buildings. I don't know how I feel about that. Kinda weird how everything is shaped like hats. Speaking of which, Mario in this game is very secretly going through an identity crisis, as he's missing the most iconic hat in all of gaming. Next up is his mustache, just you wait. His hat got shredded earlier by Bowser's airship, but I guess the theme of the area fits for the funeral. We meet a ghost-looking hat-shaped being with the last piece of his hat. Thank you so much for salvaging the last of his identity. It's been 32 years, time to move on. Okay, never mind. This is Cappy, the best Mario companion outside of Luigi, and yes, he does have a sense of smell. I couldn't tell you why. We gotta get to the top hat tower because we got company waiting for us. These are the Broodals, discount Koopalings, but apparently rabbits are a pretty important element of this game. Sure, why not? This is our first mini-boss, and once we defeat him, we're off to start our adventure. I love this single moment watching Mario making his way back out to the world, on a mission with Cappy at his side. We end up crash landing at Cascade Kingdom, the token grassland area, but here it's more prehistoric, and yes, that is a fucking T-Rex. Cappy knows about a vehicle we can use to transport ourselves around the world. Once we find it, we have to power it up so we can travel. Once we get enough power, we're able to move on to the next kingdom, either the Sand or Lake Kingdoms. Let's go check out the desert lanes first. Once we get there, we realize it's cold as hell, and no, that is not correct. Something's going on with the environment because this huge ass area is supposed to be hot as fuck. Well, out in the distance, we see a huge floating pyramid.
That's not true. It's not actually floating when you get there. It's in the ground, and then eventually it goes up in the air when you make enough progress. I'm sorry for lying to you.
That's our primary destination, and we have a target to neutralize. The overall goal is the same when we're in Lake Kingdom and Wooded Kingdom: defeat the Broodals and collect moons. But when it feels like we're making good progress, we have a nice encounter with Bowser himself, so we make a pit stop on the ever so beautiful Cloud Kingdom. This is where we have our true first boss fight. The setting is so nice considering what's at stake. Also, I forgot to mention, Cappy has a sister who's connected to Peach, also known as Tiara. If you were to guess that she was a Tiara, just take your free car. So Mario and Cappy have the same goal, killing two birds with one hat. Haha. Bowser retreats for the time being, but he truly wins in this situation because he completely halts our progress by damaging the Odyssey, and we land in the Lost Kingdom, the most mysterious environment in the game. We gotta find moons to give the Odyssey enough power to recover from its injury. I like the idea of the Odyssey having battle scars after being destroyed, and that is not completely cleaned up with the new paint job. Once we manage to get out of the Lost, it's time we head to the best kingdom in the entire game. Although when we get there, it's looking super fucking depressing. A huge storm is going on, and the city is looking like it's about to go through an apocalypse. Mario takes on the task to figure out what's going on. After we make it to the top of the tallest building that I forgot the name of, we find our suspect, a Mechawiggler. They really took this and turned it into this. The future sure is gonna be a fucked up place. We're probably gonna get a Mario Fallout game in 800 years. Once we neutralize this monster, the storm passes over and it's a clear 75 with a light gust of cool wind. Everyone is wearing suits, so they're practically living in an air fryer 24/7. Although our job isn't finished, there's still more work to be done. Mayor Pauline wants to throw a huge citywide festival to celebrate the city's recovery from almost becoming dystopian, as well as giving the area a fresh start. The new Donk City Festival is one of my favorite moments in any Mario game. The gameplay, the visuals, the music. Pauline is legendary. Even the references to arcade Donkey Kong, it's enough to make a grown skeleton cry. Celebrating the city's revival is beautiful. This is peak Nintendo, ladies and gentlemen. My favorite multi-moon in the entire game without a doubt. But it's time to get back on our feet and continue with the adventure. We go from the beautiful city to a very underrated place that always went over my head, but after replaying the game for the 500th time, I have come to appreciate what the Snow Kingdom brings. Although, I'll be real, it's tough to follow up New Donk City, especially all that fun we just had, but it doesn't take away the fact that the rest of these kingdoms are still amazing in their own right. The main goal for the Snow Kingdom is that we have to win a Shivera bound bowl race, and honestly that's pretty much it. I'll talk about the race itself later, but it's very unique in the most positive of ways. Yeah, it's not as distinct as landing in Cascade for the first time, the New Donk City Festival, or even the first Bowser encounter, but it's a nice change of pace. We pass through the beautiful beaches of Bubble Lane. This is Nintendo's iteration of Thomas Edison, who has definitely seen better days. Luncheon Kingdom is up next, where you become a giant steak. It's more interesting than a pothole. Although, on our way to the next kingdom, we encounter Bowser again. We're forced to take another pit stop as we crash land in the Ruined Kingdom, and I think it's pretty obvious what series of games this is similar to. Chibi Robo for the Switch 2. Yeah, we fight a goddamn dragon. Bowser got hold of a dragon, all because he wants to marry Peach. Well, that's not the only surprise. We figure out that Bowser has his own fucking kingdom. What is going on? We have to climb all the way up to the highest peak to face off against him, but unfortunately he's a wuss. He's going to the moon, but unfortunately we run into a few roadblocks. We have 3 different battles against the Broodals, and after they go down, it's time to take the final step into the end game as we make our way to the goddamn moon, where Bowser is holding his wedding. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Peach said yes if she wasn't getting married against her will. It's the moon, goddammit. Although, let's be real, Mario's looking fresh and it's time to crash this motherfucker. Once we do, it's time for the final battle, which is practically the same as the first encounter up in the clouds, but more intense. Once we defeat him, it's not over. Probably the best moment in Mario history. We have to escape the core of the moon from collapsing. We take control of Bowser and use his strength to get out of here. Once we get back to the surface though, yeah, basically Peach rejects both of them because they're fighting over her as if they have a chance. Mario, Pauline is right there. Odyssey's story is straightforward, simple, easy to digest, nothing out of the ordinary for a Mario plot, except for the fact that this iteration of Bowser is insane. I do think this story is really compelling because of the environments and what's at stake. No, it's not the greatest story in gaming, but that's not what Mario is about in the first place. At least not the main series, because the spin-offs have amazing plots. Anyway, I very much enjoyed this story, but it's time to go into the more interesting elements of this amazing game. Okay, first things first, let's go over the gameplay. The gameplay in this game has so many different layers to talk about, so let's go over the controls first. This is without a doubt the best movement and most fluid Mario has ever been. Mario has had a legendary history of being one of the best characters to control in a 3D environment, but Odyssey takes that to another level. Not only is moving around smooth, but the amount of different ways Mario can get around his environment is crazy. We all know he's insanely athletic, athletic, and his bag of tricks digs really deep in this game. We got the usual moveset for a 3D Mario game, but we also have some new blood. Rolling turns you into the world's scariest bowling ball, you can spin around and turn yourself into a Beyblade, and even take yourself into the air while spinning. Other than jumping and rolling, I think I've used the dive most in this game because it's so flexible as a movement option. But the biggest addition to the control is Cappy. This magic hat elevates Mario's movement to the extreme. Throwing Cappy gives you a ton of options alongside the base actions. Cappy is insanely versatile and allows you to pull off a ton of badass shortcuts, especially if you're speedrunning. Let's talk about the collectibles. Every 3D Mario game that doesn't have 3D in its title requires you to collect specific shiny things. These allow you to make progress in the story and unlock future areas. Odyssey gives us power moons. These allow us to power up the Odyssey during the main story. You can find these in a multitude of ways. Secret areas, music notes, boss fights, and so much more. The variety is beautiful. Collecting moons never gets boring. There's a total of 999 moons to collect. Technically you can gain more through certain means, but it's always nice seeing 999 on the Odyssey. Now going back to control, mainly because I forgot to mention this, swimming did take me some time to get used to, but once you adapt to the properties, it feels really good. Although a little too slow at times if you're not a cheap, but what do you expect for swimming? Of course you're gonna be slower, you fucking idiot. And yes, I am talking to myself because I'm dumb. Speaking of which, the biggest marketed gimmick this game gives us is the brand new capture mechanic. With help from Cappy, Mario can take control of specific characters, enemies, or objects. You can perform specific actions with these captures, solving puzzles, and this also includes escaping near death at the center of the moon. A lot of these captures are used in super creative ways, and then there's a boulder. The ratio is positive, I swear. The capture mechanic is executed to perfection. Also, I love that there's no limitation on most of these captures. You can travel the entire Sand Kingdom as a Goomba. One thing I hated about the power-ups from the Galaxy games is that a few of them are temporary. Both fire and ice flowers are super cool in those games, but they only last for so long. And yet the spring mushroom can be used for an infinite amount of time. This power-up deserves jail time. There are also a variety of different 2D areas where Mario goes back to his roots and takes on a familiar retro design. I love these sections as a throwback to the good old days of 1985. I wouldn't know what that's like because I'm in my 20s. This is how you execute a genuine nostalgic moment in a game. They're all super unique in their gameplay and takes on the environments at a high level. The overall gameplay could not possibly get better than this. Putting Super Mario Odyssey and boring in the same sentence? Just go ahead and get in. This game has a wide variety of enemies, some a part of the franchise legacy, and some new blood that do their job very well. But let's go over the big bads of this game. I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% set on a few of these bosses many years later. Don't get me wrong, Odyssey has some strong boss fights, but it also has its weak spots. Let's start with the Broodals, a group of 5 rabbits that are working with Bowser to plan his wedding with Peach. Topper, the leader of this brutal group of 4, as well as being responsible for client relations, Harriet, who works with pyrotechnics, Rango the bouncer, and Spewer the entertainment. I found this interesting because I believe Spewer and Rango's roles should be swapped. Spewer seems to be physically the strongest out of the 4, and if you look at how Rango moves around, he seems he would be more entertaining to watch. But I've been living with this information for the past month. I'm over it, I swear. Madame Brood is the manager of the whole wedding, with her pet Chain Chomp as her right hand of sorts. But last time I checked, Chain Chomps don't talk or have hands. Obviously the goal is to crash a wedding, and that includes disrupting the planning by taking out the Broodals. 13 bosses in total throughout the main story. We face off against the Broodals, Madame Brood, and Bowser twice, with 7 bosses in between. 2 of those 7 special boss fights are part of the main story, while the other 5 are not, but they can be done before completing the campaign. Player's choice. First up on the list is Spewer. His favorite songs are Toxic by Britney Spears and Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe. He spits out poison in a large circle around him, and we have to avoid it at all costs. Once he's hit, he turns into a flying saucer and leaves a trail of poison until he feels like he's had enough. He's not all that interesting as a character, and his boss fight is super whatever. I feel nothing when I fight him. Next up is Rango. He's lanky like Iggy, but let's be real, at least Iggy has a personality. Rango's fight is without a doubt the least interesting to me. He throws a set of hats at you, use your own hat to stop them in place, bounce off of them, and drill yourself into his head. Rango is the the worst bouncer of all time, which makes it even worse that he actually bounces towards you once you get a hit in. Harriet is up next, and it only makes sense for the pyrotechnics expert to use spiked bombs in combat. There are two ways to get the best of her. You can either avoid the bomb she throws at you and reflect the huge bombs attached to her hair back at her, or you can reflect the smaller bombs in her face. But that means you gotta have space and the right angle between you and her, but it's more than manageable. Now moving on to the leader himself, Topper. Well, I guess he was named the leader for a reason, because he's definitely the most challenging of the four, which isn't saying anything at all. Get rid of his top hats and stomp on him. After he recovers, he spawns more top hats, and you have to guess where he is by throwing Cappy at all the hats. This gets more annoying with each encounter, but at least he brings a challenge the second and third time around. Now moving on to Madame Brood herself. I mentioned her pet Chain Chomp earlier. Well, that's her weapon of choice in this game. Make the hats disappear while it charges at you, and once the shiny ball top is free, capture it and work your Mario magic. It's just that simple. You even have to deal with multiple hats on the second encounter, but the gameplay is still the same. This is more exciting than Spewer and Ringo combined, which again isn't saying much. Now moving away from the rabbits, let's head up Seaside Kingdom and take on the reincarnation of George Washington and Thomas Edison combined. No, I cannot pronounce his name, but once you give him a taste of what a cork tastes like, it's time to face off. Use the Gushins to get the high ground and spray the top of his head. This is when you realize that he's a fraud. Lava hair doesn't exist. I like this fight because you have to keep up with him because he's traveling throughout the kingdom, and you have to make sure you're on pace with him, so when he stops, you can pick the right time to initiate combat. You also have to keep up your water supply as a Gushin, because a dehydrated Gushin is terrifying to look at, so make sure you have good timing before turning yourself into a water hose. Next on the list is Cookatiel, a true menace to society. Swim around this huge boiling pot of stew and use your platforming skills to get to this waste of meat. It can be a challenge considering the platforms of Pepto-Bismol are constantly moving, but it's nothing too crazy, and thank God we can burn this thing alive. On our way to Metro Kingdom for one of the scariest sights I've ever seen, and that's a robotic Wiggler. Yes, it can teleport. The Wiggler species should be on the rise. Where were they in Mario Wonder? Take control of a Sherm tank in order to stand a chance against these behemoths. Destroy the body and avoid its attacks at all costs. It's a very intense fight, and I love what's at stake, because if we lose, let's just say the future isn't looking so bright for New Donk City. Let's head back to Sand Kingdom. Say hello to Knuckleotech. Knuckleotech is a guardian deity. We actually come across him once we land in the Sand Kingdom and just explore. Yeah, this is the top of its head. Who would have thought? I'm just now learning this, and it's a cool detail that you just never catch unless you do some extensive research. Knuckleotech himself is the reason why the Sand Kingdom is currently in icy hell. So let's give the sun its job back and turn this place back into a normal hell. This boss fight is very reminiscent of iRock from Mario 64. That classic boss fight has finally evolved into its final form, but as of now, I'll just leave this here. Once we find him in the deepest underground of the kingdom, he assumes that we stole the binding band, aka the ring that Bowser stole, but we have to fight him in order to prove that we didn't steal anything. It's too bad he disappears afterwards. This boss is really cool. You gotta avoid him trying to turn you into a pancake, and once you find an opening, you can capture his rocket fist and ram it straight into his face. I love the idea, and the ice physics add more of a challenge. Really cool. Oh god, I really just said that. Making our way over to the Wooded Kingdom to take on a UFO that's enamored with flowers for some reason. This is Torkdrift. Take control of an Uproot and dodge its lasers, and to get on its level when it's time to attack. But in order to make it vulnerable, you gotta get rid of its flower drones that hold it together. Then you'll be able to attack. I've always enjoyed boss fights that take place in a field of flowers, and this is no exception. Even though it's sorta kinda underground, I don't know, but the flowers are cool. I like the scenery. I'm not a fan of any Soulsborne game, but I will show nothing but respect for their contributions to gaming the past 15 plus years. Although this is the closest thing to a Soulsborne plus Mario experience, unless Nintendo adds their own flair to Elden Ring on the Switch too. The Lord of Lightning Ruined Dragon boss fight is a beautiful work of art. Mario fighting a traditional dragon in the main series was not on my Super Mario Odyssey bingo card in 2017. Avoid the lightning blades and AoE attacks, then once it used up all its energy, get rid of the sticks driven into its face and slam your ass down on its forehead. It's insanely simple for such a huge scale, but what do you expect from a Mario boss? Alright, moving on before I go into a lecture. Have you guys ever learned about the Trojan War? Well, I believe the RoboBrood could be passed off as a Trojan War machine, and I think it would get past the city walls and cause all kinds of destruction. Now, on the surface, this is a really cool scaled up boss fight, but there is a way you can cheese it if you figure out the movement correctly. But regardless of how you fight against the RoboBrood, it's still a very thrilling boss fight. And finally, we navigate to Bowser himself, one of his best designs as of this game's release. His boss fight is like a mirror match of sorts because he has the same hat throwing ability, except unlike Mario, he doesn't have a counterpart to Cappy. That's pure skill and talent on his part, which makes him even more intimidating to me. His fight has a lot of steps to it. Avoid the rings of fire, take control of his top hat, and go to town. I like the idea of hand-to-hand combat against Bowser of all characters. No more jumping on his head, it's time to run the ones. In future rematches, he's a lot more resilient and he'll swipe his flaming tail at you. In this game, when Mario fights Bowser, it feels real in a way. The disrespect in the first cutscene, stealing Peach away trying to force a marriage, going from kingdom to kingdom stealing their most valued possessions for his wedding. Holy shit. Dude, Bowser is willing to go all the way for this. That's crazy work. A solid number of these boss fights are really cool, although a good number of them do feel artificial, but those are mainly the story bosses. These to be more specific. They get the job done, but they had to be told multiple times how to do said job, but eventually they got it done. I actually want to go a little bit deeper into the Broodals and my general opinions on them. I can understand wanting to bring in new faces to the franchise, but I don't find any of them interesting as characters. I don't care what they bring to the story because they're practically knockoff Koopalings. Honestly, I'd rather have Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings take their place. I'm surprised Bowser Jr. doesn't make an appearance for his own father's wedding. All you have to do is locate each Koopaling at a kingdom to try and stop Mario. Make each fight more complicated and intuitive to make them more challenging and enjoyable. Obviously, you want to keep up the wedding theme and give them unique designs to fit the idea of them being a part of Bowser's wedding. I just think the Koopalings are a much better fit for what's going on here. Luckily, this game has a lot of replay value after you complete the story. There's so much more to do in the world of Odyssey, so let's go over it. Starting off with this brand new kingdom. Welcome to the Mushroom Kingdom. Holy shit, this is amazing. Imagine if Mario 64's hub world was expanded upon. This is that in like 15 nutshells. Consider this an unofficial beta for a future Mario 64 remake in 50 years. Peach's castle is absolutely stunning both outside and in, but a toad lets us know that Peach has gone missing. Mario, I'll tell you once more. Pauline is right there. We'll get to Peach in a minute. I have a lot of glaze I need to spread. First up, the moons are replaced with stars and the jingle once you collect it is from Mario 64. We can find Yoshi on top of the castle and capture him, which is a very interesting way to implement Yoshi, but I don't hate it. You might as well take advantage of this new mechanic for one of Mario's core characters. Peach's castle is a beautiful replica. If you stand in the center and look up at the ceiling, you'll get a star, a really cool reference to how you get to the Tower of the Wing Cap level. The Mushroom Kingdom is a gorgeous homage to the product that set the pace for future 3D games. But we'll come back in a bit, I need to save my glaze. In every kingdom we visited during the story, there's a mysterious block in certain locations. Give them a nice bump with Cappy and that will unlock a bunch of new moons in that kingdom. We'll even see moon pipes that lead to special moon levels. The extra depth is not necessary at all, but it's more than appreciated that they went all the way with this. And these levels don't feel lazy either, some of them are very challenging. Some take advantage of the capture mechanic or makes you show off your movement skills you've developed throughout your journey. Next up, we figure out that Peach and Tiara actually went touring the world on their own terms, since they've technically visited these kingdoms for the first time, but at the cost of nearly getting squished by a huge ring. We can find them in specific areas of each kingdom and they give us a free moon, although Peach looks like she just wants the biggest hug while Mario jumps off a cliff. Also, Peach has some great designs during her travels, which is an incredible detail. She could have been boring going in her dress the entire time, but guess who wanted to experiment with her wardrobe? 10 out of 10. It's too bad that some of these designs were wasted on this pile of shit. Next on the list are boss fight rematches. A lot more difficult this time around, but nothing that'll bring out your inner demons. Although you have to find Bowser's third rematch at the wedding hall in the Moon Kingdom. This is some of the best overall gameplay the main series of Mario has to offer. There's not really much missing from overall control, different methods of acquiring the main collectibles, and that it's so much fun. This game doesn't have a single boring 0 or 1 in its code. Now, other than gameplay, I believe the next best element of this game is the creativity and amazing environments. These kingdoms don't miss in any way, shape, or form, so I'm going to turn this into a ranking, but instead of just naming names like I have in the past, we're obviously going to take a deeper look into the kingdoms, just in a ranking format. Fun fact, I actually had plans to make a separate project ranking Odyssey's kingdoms, but I knew I would talk about them eventually in a traditional review, and so here we are now. I mentioned color schemes a lot while talking about these kingdoms, so I'm sorry if that gets gets repetitive. The vibrant visuals of this game are too good not to talk about. Anyway, let's get started with number 17. The Cloud Kingdom has its moment, but it's only temporary. This is our first pit stop and we meet Bowser here ready to run the fade. These clouds are insanely durable because Bowser is a heavy boy himself and practically bouncing off the walls. After you beat the game, there are some extra moons to collect and it rounds up to a total of 9 moons. Very aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and it looks like there's a slight sunrise in the distance with a beautiful arc of clouds in front of a big moon. It would have been pretty cool to run up that arc for an even better view of the smallest kingdom in the game. That's the main reason why it's last on my list, because compared to other kingdoms, being the smallest doesn't give for the most content, but just enough to make the quantity of content make sense for the size of the overall world. Does that make sense? I really hope so. I'm so sorry. The second smallest kingdom being another boss and story-centered area, the Ruined Kingdom, the exact opposite of Cloud Kingdom, and honestly this is the best way I can get that comparison across. Obviously this is where we come across the Ruined Dragon and take him on during our second pit stop after Bowser destroys the Odyssey again. This is the most realistic looking dragon in the PG family-friendly Mario game. Without a doubt one of, if not Bowser's most intimidating accomplices. Did someone say Dark Souls? I like that after you beat the game you can visit the Lord of Lightning himself as he's resting, and all he can say to us is that he's tired. That touched my heart and I'm so sorry for hurting you. I did what I had to do and I hope you rest well, old friend. I promise I'm not crying. I purposely left this and one more post-game kingdom out so I can talk about them here. Once you collect 250 moons, you can travel to the dark side, and we're not talking about Shadow Mario because he's dead forever. Welcome to the dark side of the moon. Now I love the idea and everything we can do here, including all the rabbits we see. Surprisingly, there aren't 5 million toads in this game, but they were all replaced by cute little bunnies and rabbits. Also, this isn't modern Paper Mario or Paper Jam, so there's that. This is the setting for the mini boss rush of this game. We fight the Broodals in a non-stop gauntlet, and it fits the theme of Bugs Bunny's descendants. I bet you right now he's so disappointed. Some of these fights are a little bit more difficult with zero gravity, but I do like the added challenge, and it does make these fights a little bit more interesting. As a whole though, it's nothing all that special to me. This is just the Broodals at their strongest, and we climb up this huge carrot to get to the top. Also, if you die, you have to start all the way from the beginning. The game doesn't save in between fights, so make sure you're at your best and with Elmer Fudd at your side just in case. You never know. Topper might have a Smith & Wesson under any of those hats, so you better stay on your toes. Overall, it's nothing all that crazy in my opinion, but still fun to take on every now and again. But that's not the only source of replay value. In every nook and cranny of this side of the moon, there are a lot of bonus areas. A lot of these challenges are very difficult, especially the ones where you can't use Cappy. Lots of fun post-game content here, but it doesn't live up to the rest of the real adventures you can find in the other kingdoms you can actually explore. You have 1/3 of the moon at your leisure. You can do whatever you want with no gravity. It's a nice way to give us more Mario Galaxy without getting more Mario Galaxy. I've talked about winter in the past. It continues to have a 50-50 relationship with every single person on this planet unless you live in areas that snow is just extinct. Welcome to the Snow Kingdom where everyone suffers from snow in July. The freezing water, the cold atmosphere, and a lot of ice. After we beat the game, we can attempt a more difficult Bound Bowl Grand Prix, which is a lot of fun on its own. Although the captures here are a bit lacking for me when it comes to quantity compared to the rest of the kingdoms, but still cool regardless. I just said that, oh lord. You only got the Shiverian Racers, Purple Cheep Cheep, and Typhus. 3 unique captures compared to some kingdoms that are in the double digits when it comes to what we can capture. That's not really the Snow Kingdom's fault though. The overall size plays a big role to that because the main area is underground and it feels a bit compressed and tight at times. The Grand Prix is the only exciting and unique aspect of this kingdom. It's the younger brother of Cool Mountain, but a bit smaller with actual living civilians, penguins are extinct, and water so cold that Antarctica feels like California. I very much appreciate this kingdom, but everything ahead is just stronger in my opinion. It's called the Forgotten Isles for a reason because only few make it out of here alive. The visuals of this environment is absolutely stunning. A beautiful combination of colors, the tree leaves with greens and oranges with hints of pink, the grass with more greens, added purples, navy blues, turquoise, and slight maroons, the distant sunset that brings all of these colors together with the addition of the brighter purple ocean of deathly poison. What a contrast, but it sure as hell works to its advantage because this is one of my favorite kingdoms when it comes to straight up visuals. But obviously that's not the main topic at hand. The Tropical Wiggler and Glydon are very cool captures. That damn bird that snatches up Cappy is a dirty thief, but luckily in the main story there's a way to get around that. Overall, this is similar to both Cloud and Ruined Kingdom, but the bigger space and extra content post game gives us some more points over those two for me. I wish we got some in-game lore for this place. I'm curious how it got like this. I think think is one of Odyssey's great mysteries, the place where the big adventure begins. Cap Kingdom is without a doubt one of the most interesting kingdoms in the game. The beautiful monochrome tone colors with the warm lighting from the massive moon behind the huge top hat tower, and all of the cap-shaped ships in the background bringing it all together. That's such a tongue twister. This kingdom does act as the tutorial area for the game. We're introduced to the amazing movement, Cappy makes his debut, our first capture is a frog of all things, but I guess Nintendo finally wanted to try again with frogs after Mario 3. Honestly, it took them long enough. Also, the residents of Bonneton are so passionate and love their home, and they're adorable. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the woods or hiking, but this might be an exception. There is so much happening in the Steam Gardens, one of the most eventful kingdoms in this massive love letter to Mother Nature. We got some machinery that's high off acorns or something, but they bring the charm to the Gardens of Steam. I like the detail that they actually talk like machines and don't automatically talk fluently. I'd say there are about 3, maybe 4 layers to this kingdom, and it's argued to be one of the biggest. Once we're able to get into the main area, we see a combination of semi-metallic oranges with some beautiful grass greens, and in addition to that, some nice white and yellow flowers. The score is iconic while you run through the flower field. Also, there's a little bit of purple when you first play through this kingdom, but it's only temporary for certain areas because of these creatures that come from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We get a good number of new captures with the Fire Bro, Coin Coffer, a tank named Sherm. Yeah, I like to believe Bowser came up with that one. A damn rock and a fucking tree. Nintendo thought this was a good idea. Also, one of the most interesting captures in the game, the uproot. Some type of onion with legs that extend upwards, hence the name uproot. Very innovative and fun to use. There's also a deep woods area, and this is the scariest part of the entire game to me because you can't teleport back to the Odyssey and you have to make your way up to the surface manually. That's terrifying. You have to find a big seed, somewhere to plant that seed, and you'll be free at last. What also makes this area so scary is that there's a dinosaur roaming around, and to add on even more fear, you can't capture it. I know why, but good lord. The deep woods is so rough, and I only touch that place if I absolutely have to. But generally, it's my least favorite area in the whole game, and I think that's a testament to how well Nintendo developed this area, because it's not bad in the slightest. Again, I'm just scared. I'll stay up on the surface with my robots and Sherm. In my eyes, you never really see prehistoric worlds in video games nowadays. Not only is it the first world we get to explore, it's a true beginning to our adventure. Waterfalls, a dinosaur skeleton that exists in a Mario game, and an actual T-Rex that you can capture and control. This was the beginning of the end of Nintendo's faithfulness. Fossil Falls really does look like the last holdout of history. It really makes me think what this place could have been before nearly everything and everyone went extinct. That is, if actual people lived here. We have no idea. It's really interesting to find out what's up with some of the main attractions, like the massive wall with the first 8-bit section in the game, the T-Rex, the waterfalls full of drinking water as the game claims. You can also live your very own Flintstones life and dress up like one and wear a dead Koopa on your head. Let that sink in. We can capture 3 different types of chain chomps, but other than Rexy, that's pretty much it. A great way to introduce us to the world of Mario Odyssey. And speaking of the Odyssey, this is where we get to see the ever so historic Odyssey hatch ship for the very first time in its prime. And then after that, it really does fall off. Honestly, it's really a shame. Our main way of transportation to other kingdoms and has a very nice inside. That does not sound right. Going back to the kingdom itself, very grassy, but not surprising that it's like this. If you're aware of the Mario series in any capacity, they usually always start with a grassy plains area, but this game takes that up to an 11. But the prehistoric design is a super unique take on any Mario environment. They could have done it in so many different settings, but I think it fits better here. I'm starting to figure out a theme with the moon in this game. We're introduced to the Comina crater, with all the civilians from their respective kingdoms ready for us to never come back. We go and flirt with Pauline as she sings, then we hop our way up with a frog and we see a massive skyscraper in the distance. That's our destination. It's gonna take a while to get there, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is what hell looks like. This is the Champion's Road of Mario Odyssey, and it puts your skills to the test, and it's a lot of fun to play when you get a hang of the movement, because that'll carry you big time during this difficult challenge. First phase, we gotta get past some Goombas, and we can defeat that hat UFO to get some extra health. Then Mario experiences with pole dancing in a funny sense. Then we swing our way into an area full of sliding platforms going the opposite way of where we need to go. So turn into your inner Jumpman and do everything you can to survive. We take control of a lava bubble and bunny hop between the land, and soon jump into this cannon that leads us into the next section of this gauntlet. The stress levels may be going up, but it's more fun this way. We take control of this uproot and use it when we need to. Then we jump into some nice ice water from the Snow Kingdom, and we have to avoid fuzzies and not freeze to death. Next up, we get to our boy Yoshi, and we ride up these conveyors and avoid even more fuzzies. Then we travel on a flower road similar to Wooded Kingdom and make our way to the next section. Here we come across the iconic Sphinx, and you can answer his riddle, then you'll get some extra HP. We keep moving along and we get to the second hardest part of this entire kingdom. You can throw Cappy downwards and just ride this block like an elevator. You'll be at the top in no time and skip this entire section. But if you don't like taking advantage of what's given to you, then it becomes the world's most difficult wall jump challenge. To me, this is the most satisfying part of the entire game. I usually just cheese my way to the top. Speaking of cheese, after you get to the top, we meet our good friend Glydon. You can do an easy glitch in order to get to the Bowser portrait on the other side. You at the very least have to get an air boost, and once you do, just keep shaking your controller to keep gliding up. And those damn fuzzy mosquitoes can't touch you. I hate those things. This allows you to skip the next two sections, and you can go straight into the Bowser portrait from there. But I will briefly talk about those two sections. Once you land with Glydon, you must fling yourself from fork to fork all the way to the upcoming pipe. That leads us to the most difficult phase of the darker side. You have to ride this platform and survive. Also, you have to use energy rings to get rid of these awful pests. Even if you have extra health, you can't afford to get hit once. It's a very toxic relationship. Thank God Glydon is my best friend here. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am a different variation of myself. As you can tell, my colors are different, and that means something's not right. I exist to right this idiot's wrongs. Basically, verbal corrections or anything he forgot to mention, it's my job to get that information to you. Because he loves skipping the last two sections of the darker side with Glydon, he completely forgot that there was a very stressful Pokio section and an 8-bit area where you have to make your way to Donkey Kong and avoid his barrels while playing in 360. He hasn't played the darker side legitimately since he first beat it and then learned about the Glydon stuff. Honestly, I expect nothing more from him. We jump into the Bowser portrait, and now we have to go through this section, which can also be as stressful as everything else we've done, but for me is one of the easiest sections of this gauntlet. This is a more difficult version of the original Bowser capture section at the end of the story. Bowser's always fun to use in this game, so I don't mind the challenge. Afterwards, it's time to wrap things up for the darker side. After a really cool thank you message from a Spark Pylon, it makes me feel like a hardcore gamer. The skyscraper that'll officially put an end to our journey. Cappy reminisces about our adventure, the music is making me depressed, then we grab our final multi-moon. I promise I'm not crying. Also, fun fact, if you die, you have to start from the very beginning. To me, this is easier than World Crown and Champions Road in 3D World, but it's still super challenging, especially if you don't cheese your way to the end. Having to go through everything you did, all the stupid deaths that make you look back on how dumb you were, forcing yourself to 100% this game just to put a top hat on top of Peach's castle. Yeah, I'd say it was worth it. I find it funny how I'm treating this like the end of the whole review when we got 8 more kingdoms to go over and even more game to talk about. I'm so sorry, the darker side made me very emotional. I'm still not crying, by the way. Back on the normal side of the moon, the final kingdom on our story-based adventure, Honeyloon Ridge. The best place to hold a wedding and possibly a honeymoon. If you plan on getting married on the moon, let me know how it goes. It's a lot of fun exploring the moon with low gravity, and it's pretty broken if you're about to die. Wall jumping in 0 gravity is crazy. Although, to think, all these people got invited to a wedding by a guy who basically destroyed their homes, and they all went on a whim, unless they were forced or threatened to. If so, then that actually makes sense. There's a section of this kingdom that gives us the fire environment that we usually see at the end of Mario games, and that's the core of the goddamn moon, which is genius. Because now we can all be a part of Eggman blowing up the moon. We can capture Parabones, Bonsai Bills, Charging Chucks, and even take control of Bowser himself in the story. Granted, that's only through the story and the darker side, but it's still a part of this kingdom and it's awesome. Other than being able to go back to the wedding hall, there's not all that much to do here besides collect more moons after you beat the game. Although during this, you can find a group of civilians from their respective kingdoms admiring the view of Earth from the moon. It's beautiful, honestly. The ASMR kingdom of this game. One of the most beautiful kingdoms with some luxurious light blues with hints of pink that surrounds Lake Lamode. Despite this area being smaller, it's still nice to just swim around with the Cheep Cheep and enjoy the feel of the water, even though we're not there in real life. You get what I'm trying to say. It doesn't look this compelling, trust me. This kingdom is visually appealing for me and a nice place to relax. The music makes you want to go to sleep and just relax with the calming water water sounds while Mario swims through. If you're looking for a wedding dress for your big day, take a trip down to the Pacific Ocean. Test your luck and don't bet on not drowning. Welcome to the next coming of Flavor Town. Meltvo Bono. This is a place where every color pops at you hard, it's boiling hot because we're in the middle of some pink lava, we can walk on a rolling corn on the cob, throw a seed into some soup and get stuff, travel around the lava while controlling a lava bubble. Everything probably smells great, fling yourself around with Volbonians, jump as a giant piece of meat, take that as you will, Nintendo probably didn't think that one through, but you'll come up with your own ideas. Fight a stupid bird that can cook and spit out a weird texture of lava, food is everywhere, the top of the volcano is full of soup. The Piranha Plaza looks great. It looks like there's a quinceañera being held every day here. This is the very PG version of Food Wars in a Mario game. I'm all for it though. The size of this kingdom according to the game is buffet size, so pretty big, and that obviously makes a lot of sense. It's not super size me big, but luckily we don't like cursed documentaries on this channel. A wide kingdom with lots to prove being a beach themed area. One of, if not the most beautiful sunsets I've seen in a video game, and I've seen my fair share. A gorgeous giant glass of carbonated water that doesn't ever overflow. Don't drink carbonated water as is, you'll be very disappointed. We got nice sunset oranges combined with the clearish blue waters. I love the snail civilians and their energy. They just want to vibe and do the hula. The underwater 8-bit section is a really cool puzzle, and I believe it's a lot more fun to explore the deep depths of the underwater. The Gushers are a super unique capture and enjoyable to traverse with. We just vibe with the snails and become one with the waves. Now let's hope we don't drown. This is the ultimate fan service to all the old school Mario fans. Not even just to them, but just to fans of the entire franchise as a whole. This is quite literally the developers giving us something that we didn't ask for, but is actually something that benefits us as fans. Imagine if Mario 64 allowed us to explore outside of Peach's castle like this. No one would get anything done, and that's beautiful. You can explore the outside of the castle and just go through the island of the Mushroom Kingdom. But inside the castle itself, there's really only Toadette, a bunch of other toads, and a throne to sit in. I was at least expecting one civilian from every kingdom here, but no, it's unfortunate. Nintendo really do love their toads. There's so much charm and nostalgia here. The Easter eggs are super smart to find, especially if you played the 64 classic religiously. The home of Princess Peach, and 35 plus years later, we still don't know who her parents are, and we probably never will. Okay, this is without a doubt the biggest kingdom in the game. The wide space alongside the weather being an average of 104. There's a lot to see and a ton to do in Toast Arena. First, let's talk about the plaza. Very traditional, being surrounded by sand 24/7, and it reminds me of some places in Mexico. Out east of the Odyssey, there's a lake full of Cheep Cheeps in the sand underwater, and Lakitu fishing makes its debut here as well. A pretty fun way to just fish while also being a Lakitu. Then we enter the Toast Arena ruins, explore and soar through the sky with bullet bills, and we come across two really cool 8-bit sections. One of them you can skip very easily, but it exists. That's cool. It's not a flex because I exist, but it's still cool. There's so much to talk about and a lot to show, but I'll let the gameplay speak for itself. I just gave you a nice sample. We can capture Goombas, Moais, Knuckleotech's fist, and the rocket making its introduction, and a f***ing cactus. You know, I'd ask why, but I know full well I'm gonna get an answer I won't be happy with. I love this kingdom's concept. A traditional Japanese themed kingdom that you have to pretty much climb up. The tallest and most fun to travel, as well as all the islands being separated and isolated with their own ways of making progress. I love the aesthetics and visuals, as well as a very fitting Japanese style music. The clouds make the sky so nice to look at with the blues, greens, and dark oranges. If only real clouds had RGB abilities, that would cause a bunch of downward spirals, so maybe it's a good idea to just keep them as is. The Pokio is such a cool capture, especially when you have to climb up two huge walls to get to the top of the whole kingdom. Also, when you get to the Crazy Cap store as a pit stop, you can take control of these statues known as Jizzos. They probably should have changed the name of those. These are basically Tanuki statues from past games in a different setting. The RoboBrood fight is cool, and once we defeat them, they turn into fireworks, like it's Super Mario 3D World. There's no way we're already nostalgic about that game, right? It hasn't been that long. This is a great kingdom, and I love the scale, visuals, the story implements. It's amazing, but there's only one that can come out on top. Oh yeah, I'm so surprised. I never saw it coming. Well, luckily in this case, predictability doesn't make this kingdom any worse. Without a doubt, my favorite kingdom in the whole game, and it's not even close. It's always fun to just run around the city and take in the New York lifestyle. Don't be surprised if the next time you see me, I'm rocking a Boston accent, a metropolitan environment with real people, and a mayor that could beat every mayor in the real world. No one can beat Pauline. Pauline. She went from damsel in distress in 1981 and then made the greatest comeback of all time 36 years later. And no, Mario vs. Donkey Kong does not count for shit. She quietly gives Peach a run for her money in the most passive way, by just existing. To think Nintendo would give Pauline a real makeover for modern times. I never thought I'd see the day, but I'm all for it. But we take the wins we're given. Improvements in every department so you won't catch me complaining. And yes, I'm starting to realize that most of this segment is me talking about Pauline, but she's a key factor to this kingdom. Now, speaking of the actual kingdom itself, I actually really like the advertisements plastered all over the city. The Easter eggs are super cool when you notice them. Nintendo did a really good job marketing this kingdom as one of the main kingdoms in the game, alongside Sand, Wooded, and Luncheon Kingdom in the first trailer. I'm gonna let the gameplay speak for itself. Also, Jump Up Superstar by Pauline is iconic. The new Donk City Festival is a work of art that needs to be in the Louvre decades from now. Every single kingdom I just talked about, including the extras, bring a lot of value to this game. For me, the positives bring in some of the best environments we've seen from Nintendo when it comes to Mario. And I don't believe there's anything negative that stands out in a way that ruins the experience, other than wishing for some kingdoms to be a bit larger, but this is a semi-open world game, so there are gonna be kingdoms bigger than others. That's just what happens. But just like real life, the overall size doesn't mean shit. I enjoy every single kingdom in this game. They were all well thought out, and I would like to see some of these NPCs come back in future main series projects or even spin-offs. But it's time we finally move on. The base game on its own is absolutely beautiful. I love nearly everything that we get here, but Nintendo was so nice to give us some extra content with new updates to the game. Every single one of them was free, and I believe this is why some spin-offs struggle to get off their feet. I'm about to go on a light tangent real quick. If you don't want to hear that, I'll meet you back right here. I'm so sorry. Odyssey set the tone for free updates during the Switch era of Mario games, but because spin-offs are much more flexible than the main series titles, it seemed like they could get away with not fully completing those games because they don't hold the same priority as the mainline series, like an Odyssey or a Wonder. But that's enough of that. Just wanted to get that out of my system. It doesn't take anything away from the high quality of the final product. It's just something I wanted to put out there. So Odyssey got 4 updates throughout the next 2 years. The first 2 were very tame, with enhancing the player experience and extra language settings, the whole kit and caboodle. But the biggest update released to us on February 21st, 2018. Guys, can I be honest? I was not expecting this, and I was hoping for a lot more afterwards. Version 1.2 gave us a ton of new outfits that I adore, new features for the snapshot mode, which is a lot deeper than you think, and the biggest new mode, Luigi's Balloon World. I was very hesitant about this idea when I first saw the announcement for it. My brain was going haywire because I was very confused at the time. My feelings about this mode are very mixed. The last update allowed us to put a somewhat good use for cardboard. On April 25th, 2019, Super Mario Odyssey is now compatible with the Nintendo Labo Toy-Con VR goggles. They really couldn't come up with a better name for that? Yes, this is a contributor to the Nintendo cardboard epidemic, and no, I did not waste a single penny on any Labo kit because I have a little bit of self-respect. The DLC had so much potential to give us the most amazing extra content we've ever seen in a Mario game. My expectations had no right to be as high as they were, but I believe because of how strong the game presents itself, I do think that the higher expectations for extra content is more than warranted. Although, despite the lack of content, I will give the DLC a pass because I truly believe Odyssey is that good and not needing a boost of DLC to make it better. It would be a nice bonus to have if the scale of the DLC was a lot larger. I believe this game is infinitely replayable on subsequent playthroughs, and that's super valuable in the long run for any game where you go from point A to point B. Okay, now that we got the big boys out of the way, let's go deeper into some miscellaneous topics. Strap in, because I clearly have a lot more to say, as well as 2 more rankings, but I promise those will go by quickly. First things first, I mentioned this when I was talking about the kingdoms. The visuals of this entire game, they're off the charts. Amazing. I love how everything looks. Ugly doesn't exist in the Odyssey universe. Mario, Peach, Bowser, and the NPCs, they bring their respective kingdoms together alongside the key visuals, characters, environments, visual effects. I can't stress how gorgeous this game is. If you put this game next to a beautiful woman, you'll get me contemplating. I can't help but smile. This game got me kicking my feet up in the air while twirling my hair. Yeah, it's gotten that weird. Let's move on. I think there's a big missed opportunity to give the Odyssey even more customization than what we already have. In nearly every kingdom, you can use purple coins to buy stickers for the exterior and souvenirs for the interior. I love how homey the Odyssey looks on the inside once you gain all of these unique collectibles. Something about it just makes me happy because it's a representation of your entire journey and all the kingdoms you visit revisited. It's great and I love it, but I do wish there was more to it, but I'm cool with where it's at. Now, I don't want to get too philosophical on you, but I want to ask one of life's most mysterious questions. Is Luigi's Balloon World a good addition to the game? I'll be honest, when I first saw the announcement for this new game mode, I didn't know what to think. My expectations for DLC was a lot higher because of how strong the original game was. I was thinking Kirby levels of extra content where that extra content could be a whole separate game on its own. But when the trailer for Luigi's Balloon World dropped, I was very concerned and had lots of questions that started with why. But I gave it a fair chance. So, what is Luigi's Balloon World and how does it work? This is a game of online hide and seek, but instead of being in a room with other players and actually playing hide and seek, you have to either hide or seek balloons from players all over the world. That's a cool idea. This mode is available in every kingdom excluding 4, mainly due to the overall size of those kingdoms. And thank God they didn't make us go through the darker side gauntlet for this mode. That would be toxic as fuck. When hiding your balloon, you have 30 seconds to find a spot anywhere in the kingdom to place your balloon. All that's left is to hope other players don't find your balloon. On the other side, let's go find some balloons. The game gives you a list of other players' balloons and you get to choose whichever balloon you want to find. You have to find and pop that balloon before time runs out. The more difficult the balloon, the more coins you'll get as a reward. You also get coins if players pick your balloon but fail to pop it. I believe finding balloons is a lot more fun than just hiding them, and if I remember right, there was a bug where players can make it impossible to get their balloons popped, and I'm not 100% sure if they patched it. Let me know. I personally don't have a problem with it because this game is not all that serious because there's nothing to really gain or lose. So I don't think that bug is much of a big deal because you'll be able to find balloons that you'll actually be able to pop. Realistically, it's just there if you want to have a good time with the new minigame. Initially, I was very skeptical, but after some time, I genuinely enjoyed the minigame. I just wish we got more after Balloon World was released. And no, compressed VR doesn't count. Next up on the list is a cool minigame that I vastly prefer over Luigi's Balloon World, Koopa Racing. These Koopas are built different because they're the same as Mario when it comes to movement. They're super talented, just like their spin-off counterparts in sports games. The concept is exactly what the name is. You race Koopa Bros across kingdoms and you want to come out on top. If you have good navigation skills, then these races should be a piece of cake, especially if you know the control and movement very well. It's super satisfying putting those skills to the test in a racing setting. Although there's a missing piece to this minigame, being able to race against other players, whether it be locally or worldwide. I believe we should have the choice to race them at the same time or their go similar to Mario Kart time trials. I'm very surprised that that's not a thing. And imagine a pseudo-competitive Mario Odyssey Koopa racing tournament. That just sounds like a lot of fun. Now let's talk about Mario himself. I love his design in this game. The details of his in-game model are insanely cool. The unique strands of his hair and mustache, the stitches on his overalls, the way his nose bounces while moving. He's very well animated, super charming. There's no problem with Mario's design in this game. I like how they made Mario look somewhat realistic in his world instead of a full-on in real life Mario, because we already have many variations of that. I'll be honest, I don't think we need any more. Although I will say this, Mercedes-Benz Mario is the best one, without a doubt. Odyssey Mario looks amazing as is, but luckily we can play dress up with our former plumber. At every Crazy Cap shop, you can purchase cosmetic clothing for Mario. There's a Universal store and the Kingdom exclusive store where you spend purple coins for the Kingdom's exclusive clothing items. These costumes bring even more charm to Mario because it feels like he's an extension of the Kingdoms because he goes about his adventure and puts the civilians in a safe place by dealing with the enemy. So it's nice to see him representing every kingdom in their own unique way. There are so many great outfits in this game and some I find questionable. Also throughout the updates we got a bunch of DLC outfits that are either great or puts question marks over my head. After the final update we are currently at 58 unique outfits. And feel free to mix and match. So this is great for everyone that wants to put Mario in a wedding dress because if you want to rep American drip, this is the best you're gonna get around here, brother. Not even the golf outfit out America's a football uniform and a cowboy hat. But anyway, let's get to the ranking. This will be quick and easy, but my placements are determined by if I like the designs. Some of these have awesome references, which is a nice bonus but not required. Anyway, starting at number 58, Clown Suit, Caveman Outfit, Rango Suit, Harriet Suit, Waluigi Suit, Spirit Suit, Conductor's Outfit, Swimwear, Bridal Gown, Topper Suit, Classic Suit, Invisibility Hat, Metal Mario, Gold Mario Outfit, outfit, Santa outfit, football uniform, Happy outfit, Wario suit, Knight armor, Snow suit, Diddy Kong suit, Doctor outfit, Space suit, Science outfit, Explorer outfit, Racing outfit, Employee uniform, Aviator outfit, Pirate outfit, Sailor suit, Satellaview suit, Boxer shorts, Baseball uniform, Luigi suit, Mario suit, Captain's hat, Fashionable outfit, Poncho and sombrero, Resort outfit, Hakama, Painter outfit, Zombie outfit, Bowser's tuxedo, Black suit, Chef suit, Black tuxedo, Musician outfit, 8-bit Mario cap, Samurai armor, Cowboy outfit, Builder outfit, Mechanic outfit, King's outfit, Golf outfit, Mario 64 suit, Sunshine outfit, Mario's tuxedo, and the Skeleton suit. Jesus Christ, I've never said the word suit and outfit more in my life. Why did they do that? I love the mix of unique costumes alongside legacy designs. It's so nice to have as options, and I hope that future 3D games have this feature. But finally, we move on, good lord. With the overwhelming and somewhat concerning amount of praise I've given this game so far, now it's time to talk about a personal negative. It's not as significant as my million positives, but it's something that I became passionate about 10 seconds ago. I believe Nintendo should have added more DLC other than Luigi's Balloon World and VR compatibility with Labo. I have some ideas I would have loved to see for these updates. I was thinking a solo Luigi campaign. Think how Nintendo did New Super Luigi U, except this time it's actually interesting, and Luigi has his own adventure while Mario is saving Peach. I think that would be really cool. I think Luigi with Odyssey's control will be insanely fun. And I left the obvious for last, more kingdoms. If I had to guess, the most requested kingdom to come in as DLC was an island from Mario Sunshine, especially since we have the Sunshine outfit, so it seemed like it was only a matter of time, but unfortunately we never got it. Luckily the base game is so damn strong on its own, so I'm not too mad about the relatively underwhelming wave of updates. Luigi's Balloon World is fun, but it's not something that you're gonna play every single time you boot up Odyssey, and I don't think it would hurt to give us a little bit more. But what's the point of saying this about a game that's almost 8 years old? This game would benefit so hard with the addition of a day and night cycle. This is a very small detail that would have been so nice if they added it. It would add so much depth to the kingdoms that actually have a sun, so obviously we're gonna have some exceptions here. You could definitely try to have the moon rotate around the earth when you're in the moon kingdom. I just believe that these kingdoms will look amazing with a proper time cycle and weather system. During the story, certain kingdoms have a different setting. Once you make progress and complete the story themed missions in every kingdom, all of them stick to their own setting. The only instances we see different times of the day and or weather is during the story and Koopa races. I think being able to cycle through time of day and weather would bring so much depth, especially if we get to see a lot of these kingdoms at night. More so Metro Kingdom at night when it's not in the middle of a thunderstorm. I think the cycle should be similar to Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom or Pokemon Legends Arceus / Scarlet and Violet alongside more weather options. As much as I love the kingdoms in their current state visually, at times just seeing the same setting over and over again can make them feel flat in a way. Now before we put a pin on this, let's go over some general reception and critical responses. When the game was released, it was met with universal critical acclaim. As of 2025, Metacritic ranks Odyssey as the joint third highest rated game of all time, which is crazy to think about. They start us off with a 97 out of 100, although we do have a few perfect scores. GameSpot and Nintendo Life with 10 out of 10, The Guardian comes in with a 5 out of 5, and IGN will ride the hype train of any game without context, but I like to say that they used their brains this time and gave Odyssey a 10 out of 10. Some very specific issues I've heard and seen the most were centered around motion control. You can throw Cappy by shaking whatever controller you're using, and depending on the motion, he can do a specific throw. For example, if you flick your Joy-Con up, then Mario will throw Cappy upwards. There were some general complaints about the motion control being imprecise at times, and I could definitely see that perspective, especially at the time. The Switch was 7 months old, and motion control wasn't exactly the #1 priority for Nintendo this time around, so I can see people having trouble with it. But luckily it's not mandatory, which gives it a pass for me. Granted, generally I've had some inconsistencies with motion control, but I never have to rely on it for any reason. I just use it because I want to. The rest of the ratings I got are near perfect. Destructoid 9.5 out of 10, Famitsu 39 out of 40, and Game Informer 9.75. This game did absolute numbers when it came to sales. 3 days after release, more than 2 million copies of the game were sold worldwide, with 500,000 in Japan. During launch week, Odyssey went toe to toe with Assassin's Assassin's Creed Origins on sales in the UK, although Assassin's Creed barely took the win there, but I never thought I'd see that in my life. Mario vs Assassin's Creed. That alone sounds like a fever dream. In the US and Europe, it became Nintendo's fastest selling Super Mario game ever, with 1.1 million copies sold in the US within 5 days. By December 2017, Super Mario Odyssey had sold 9.07 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling game for the Switch at the time. And as of December 2024, it has sold 29.04 million copies in total. I think it's safe to say that the hype was real, and I believe it delivered. Let's talk about Jump Up Superstar. This song debuted at number 33 on the Billboard Japan Hot 100 for the week of November 11th, 2017. It reached number 1 on the Japanese iTunes Store, debuted at 25 on the All Genres category on the US iTunes Store, and singer Kate Higgins performed Jump Up Superstar live at the 2017 Game Awards. Speaking of which, Super Mario Odyssey was nominated for 6 awards at the 2017 Game Awards. Nominated for Best Game Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design, Best Action Adventure Game, Best Family Game, and Game of the Year. Although, because it was 2017, the competition was very stiff. Breath of the Wild, Nier Automata, Cuphead, Persona 5, Wolfenstein 2, South Park The Fractured But Whole. Yeah, I said it, this game is amazing. With all that competition, Odyssey only took home 1 award, and of course it was Best Family Game, which is fitting, but the amount of nominations speak for themselves despite going 1 for 6. If you can't already tell, I love this game so much. I personally believe it's the best Mario game of all time. I'm not saying it's a landslide, because you can make a great argument for a bunch of other games. I just believe Odyssey goes all out in the best ways. Super Mario Odyssey feels like a celebration of the entire franchise. I don't believe it's like that intentionally, because I think we would get some kingdoms based on past 3D games, but regardless, the love is there. Mario's most recent 3D adventure is without a doubt the most successful. I just wonder how they're gonna top this in the future with the Switch 2. Now I have a gripe. Mario can easily turn into a skeleton and go back to his normal self, just like that. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go cry because I miss my original body.